Yes, love technology. Okay. Show some discipline and let's get this motherfucker recorded in a timely manner. It's hour-long shit.
What has this
So,
been, like 3
fuck, I
weeks
don't know.
trying to figure this out?
So we're talking about what again?
Self-worth, and then how that affects your ability or your propensity to fail or succeed.
Yeah,
This is a big one. And there's a lot that goes into it that I feel like people don't even realize they're doing. Right? Like, I don't know, humility and self-deprecation, that was a little further down, but I mean, you can tell somebody's self-worth just from that, the way that they talk to themselves, you know what I mean? Or the things that they say about themselves, even in the presence of other people.
Yeah, this is different. This is different than self-awareness. You know,
Yes.
we push for a very long time and continue to do, because that's, you know, they're not the same, but they go hand in hand, right? If I'm self-aware, I mean, what part of you is it that you're aware of, and what part of you are you putting out there?
Yeah,
You know,
like
you
what,
understand
and
what I mean?
how are you using it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess with regards to goals, are we talking about goal setting or just
Yes.
finishing the shits? Like,
I mean, those are two things are kind of one and the same, right?
no.
Whether you're setting a goal or,
I
because
get, yeah.
if your self-worth is low, you're probably not even setting a goal. You know, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself that, oh, it's just hopeless.
I don't know.
Like,
See, this is the thing. I don't want to, as a wordsmith, you know, I don't want to get into a semantic conversation and say, because it's like, oh, I'm not even setting a goal, but it's like, if you know yourself, like the 90-day program, again, like I'm, you know, trying to like throw the pieces in there, you know, so that when it's put together, like for those of you who don't get it, like the way we put our programs together is not, it's not about remaking reinventing the wheel, right? It's about improving a better road. Okay. And if you want to drive your fucked up ass wheel down this road, I'm going to try to get you a road that is fit for a fucked up ass wheel. Okay. Cause it's the self-awareness is more about, you know, your awareness in a way as a professional fitness guy. Okay. So I have, for that reason, you know, Sarah and I don't do programs jointly where step one, what do you think? And then what do you think? And then, cause that's just fucking, cause this neurotic ass, like, we'll never get the shit done. Okay. So what happens is it's like anything else. It's about, we take the goal and we reverse engineer from there. And then we form fit what is proven over the last 100 years from just, you know, behaviors and go from there. So with the 90-day, it's like my part of it right now is putting together components that really search out the things that would deter you from finishing that particular workout or whatever it is. So back to so circling back, I know my wife hates me when I say circling. I don't even ever say circling back. I don't know why the fuck I just said that, but let me just reel that back in because I'm known to go on tangents. But when you goal set and you're self-aware, you start to give yourself a little bit more, you know, leniency with how you do things. And I'm not saying you accept the 5 out of a 10, but you deliberately set goals that are attainable earlier on to give you momentum. So, you know, I'm not saying you take it easy on yourself, nor am I saying that you sandbag, but if you're self-aware enough and you know that if you do sandbag this or make it easy here, because that's the only way you're going to get it done later, you're going to get that goal, then cool. Right. So I don't think that it's fair to say necessarily like you may not even goal set or, you know, whatever it is. You know, the problem with that is the caveat really is those who do that and do it successfully. Those who do that and do it successfully almost always they're in tune with whatever part of them accepts self-deprecation. Like, again, like we talked in that story before when I kicked the ball into the fucking leg, like I got a propensity to, I have a habit of like losing my shit sometimes, not all the time, But I know myself well enough that if I'm pushed too far, while I don't have as short a fuse as I did, I sacrifice the length of that fuse for its flammability. Is that a word? Does that make sense or no?
I think kind of.
So it's like so you're not understanding what I'm saying? Let me try again. I'm self-aware enough where I know that historically speaking, I got a short ass fucking fuse.
Right.
I can be impatient. I can be, if you push the right buttons, I'm going to take your fucking face off, depending on the scenario. And that may just be, that's not necessarily literal. That's just me stepping away from you because you're a piece of shit. And you know what I'm saying? And I can't deal with the bad stuff, right? So I know that. So, but I'm also aware that having a short fuse isn't necessarily a vital component to success. I don't care how you spin it. That's not obsession. That's just, you're just a short fused temperamental asshole, grown up ass toddler. You know what I mean? So I've learned to extend said fuse so it's not so short. But you can't just simply mature past that and shake it the fuck off. I don't care who the fuck. No. That ain't you. Okay, Michael Jordan is as fiercely a competitor as he was now as he was when he was a kid, because he was like that as he was a kid. You just learn how to change that shit. Like you change your goals as they go along, right? So instead of, I had to find a way to manage that part of me and my self-awareness. I knew I knew my strengths and weaknesses. So instead of having a short fuse, I said, all right, dude, let's go ahead and extend this fuse, but I got to have a trade-off here. So what's the trade? What's it going to cost me to have a longer fuse, right? You still with me?
Yeah.
So now that I have a longer fuse, man, I had to douse that shit in lighter fluid. Get what I mean? So now anybody and anything can, with the simplest thing, could potentially light my fuse. And it could be light years away instead of it being right up to my nipple. But it's super fucking flammable. Whereas before, it wasn't flammable as bad. But when you lit that bitch and you don't run, your ass is burnt the fuck up. Okay. So when you talk about like that, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So when I go and goal set and I'm writing these workouts and programs, I'm writing a high ass volume per session, and it's fucking frequent. And within those, okay, all of the rep ranges are fairly small. Really, there's nothing more than 8 to 10, and it's not about the what's it called? Loading. What's the word I'm saying? What's the word? Fuck, I can't think. What is it?
Progressive overload?
Yes, it's not about that. It's a lower rep range because it's exploratory. I want you to, like, if you want to get rid of your fucking, abs, if you want to see your abs again and whatever, I'm going to assume we all understand that battle's won in the kitchen. I'm writing these workouts where I'm going to give you a shit ton of options. Okay. And they're placed within the sequence of the workout where none of them are going to hurt you back to back to back. Right. And if they're hard and they're difficult, it's because of where they are in the workout. So you can do 2 or 3 or 5 to 8 reps of hanging leg raises, 5 to 8, take a couple of minute break, 5 to 8 of the thickest strap fishtails, okay, which is a new one. I don't know if I showed you that one yet. Okay, and I've got these highly acute, really focused workouts that you do in a high volume but a very small rep range, so you can kind of see what works for you and what doesn't. Right. And a lot of it is based on your feedback in that workout and so that you know what to do the next time around. Right. And these, I don't know. I don't know if that's, I just wanted to make sure I wanted to explain that part. 5 minutes fucking later.
Well, I think of a lot of what you are talking about is humility. It's like understanding yourself and knowing this is an area that I need to work on myself. Like there's a difference between saying, you know what, I know I have a short fuse, I need to lengthen it, and then just saying, I'm just an asshole. Like that's just how I am, get used to it or leave. You know what I mean? It's like in one hand, when somebody is humble and they're looking at themselves with a sense of humility, it gives them a roadmap for growth, right? It gives you like a path to go on to be better. You're finding the things that you want to work on. You're looking at it from a point of realism but not from a point of like of destroying yourself. When as in self-deprecation situations, you're sitting there saying, well, that's just how I am, that's just how it's going to be, and there's nothing I can do about it.
What do you mean humility?
I mean, being able to step back and understand that there are areas in life that you can improve in, rather than just accepting it for what it is and telling yourself that you're bad at something. You know what I mean? When when somebody has humility,
because the attitude, like, are you talking about humility as a mindset, as a personality trait, as an attitude? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
humility as being humble, or just humility as in when you successfully do something, you don't, hey, look at me, you don't celebrate your accomplishments.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's necessarily about that, because I think if the way that I'm speaking about humility is more of understanding, like, this is something I need to improve on, and I'm not good at it yet, but I will be, rather than saying, well, I just suck at that, there's no hope, I'm not even going to try. You know, when somebody walks in here and they're like, God, I'm so fat, like, I just can't I can't do this exercise because my ass is too heavy, or because, you know, look at all this junk in the mirror and they're pulling on themselves. That's self-deprecation. You're looking at yourself, and I would be willing to bet that same person, 20 or 30 pounds down, smaller butt, less stuff to grab when they look in the mirror, would still have almost those exact same thoughts when they looked in the mirror, 25 or 30 pounds less. Right? And it's because they're constantly telling themselves these things that are putting themselves down and counting them out before they can even win. Whereas humility is to say, listen, this is not where I want to be, but I'm doing something about it. I know I can do something about it, and I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah, I get it, I guess. I don't know that I can see that. I guess it's, I don't know. I guess I would rather address that sort of thing with the whole just getting started concept.
Yeah,
because,
but
you know, people, this goes back to looking for approval. Then this is good. This is a different kind of spin on it. But you know, people look for approval in that way, and they don't even want to start for any number of their bullshit ass reasons. And how they look at themselves is one thing, but it's also how they think they'll look to other people. Gym-timidation, or back to what we talked about before, the support system of shits, right? Like, it's
even as far as goal setting, though, I think that in order to see that, in order to make your goal, you need to see the progress along the way. And that's something that we could go on about, and we would talk in a different episode. But if you
the
don't
right
have,
they're milestones, though. They're markers. Right. That's the trick.
Right. Yeah. But if you don't have a sense of, if you're looking at yourself through a lens of self-deprecation rather than humility, those milestones won't matter because you'll never see them. You see what I mean?
Kind of.
And I mean, what was that quote we were talking about last week?
Let me observe that one more time. Say it again.
I said, if you are looking at yourself in a lens of self-deprecation rather than through the lens of humility, then all those milestones along the way aren't going to matter because you'll never even see them. You won't be in the mindset to see, like, wow, I'm on my way to winning. Because if you're in a place of self-deprecation, all you're seeing is the negative shit. And the more negative shit you feed yourself.
Because what if you're using self-deprecating vernacular because that's just how you go about showing humility? Like I said, I don't want to get into a semantics thing of it, but that will all, I mean, at the end of the day, either or both, it's just how you value yourself.
Yes. And whether you can say, I mean, how many times even can you joke about yourself in a self-deprecating way, but you don't, like, you know, you don't truly mean it that way. Like, you don't feel that way in your soul. You're just, you're saying it, you know?
If you've been in a conversation and you start saying shit like that, you know what's funny is, here's a part you should fucking mark real quick for a reel. Check this one. You motherfuckers. if you're how often, like, it's all cool to go self-deprecating shit, to like be
Uh-huh.
humble in a conversation, say shit, even if you've, you know, if you've been number one, and you say some, and you worked hard for that, but you don't want to receive the accolades for it. You don't want to receive the attention for that success. And you start saying shit like, oh, it's probably because no one else is really trying. And you say some dumb shit like that. How long before somebody says, yeah, you're probably right? Like, that's going to sting when you don't mean it. If you're just saying that shit, you're not really self-deprecating. You're not really, you're just trying to be, you know, humble, because you don't want to be, you're ashamed almost, or you don't know how to accept, you don't know how to love yourself enough to accept the successes of it. Like, you fuck around and find out, sooner or later you're going to find yourself in a circle. Well, they'll actually start agreeing with you, and that's
Yes.
poisonous, because now you put yourself out there and you've kind of set this, you know what I'm saying, you've set this thing to be that way. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you got to nip it quick, or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been known to do that myself. You know, my number one thing was not wanting to be regarded as the cocky asshole I used to be in my 20s. But I get it. I'm aware enough of every motherfucker. Like, there's just some shit I can't. It's just the way it is. I understand that. You know what I mean? So instead, I'll go out there and call that out instead. You know what I mean? If I'm successful at some shit, I'll jokingly say, bitch, I told you so. You understand? It's how I know myself well enough to get my points across while satisfying several different components, deprecating, humility, but still accepting that I told you so at the same time. It's just you got to know yourself enough to know how to go after some things and then accept the shit when it comes, because you worked for it.
Yes.
And that also deters detractors, because they just know, like, there's nobody wants to have that conversation with somebody who's confident enough to actually say, bitch, I told you so.
Yes. That
You know what I
is
mean?
so true. Gosh.
It's the boho background. That's what it is. Fuck. This chair is so uncomfortable.
What chair is it?
I don't know.
My chair is not very comfortable either, if it makes you feel any better. Well, and then I was watching that podcast, or listening to some podcast last week, and he said something along the lines of, what was it? He said, your thoughts are the currency that buy you your future, or something like that. Your thoughts are the currency with which you buy your future. And if you think about it, that can really go either way, right? Like, if your thoughts, I mean, depending on where you're,
and he who says he can are both usually right.
Yes.
Says Confucius, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that goes all into this too. Like, there's a difference between saying, I can't jump that box, there's no way. And
fuck Tina. Oh, Jesus.
And saying, just give me a minute, I'll figure it out. Or like, I can't jump that box yet, I'm working on it, I'm not ready yet, but I will be. There's a difference between those two things. One is self-deprecating, and it's an end-all be-all. If you're going to tell yourself over and over you can't jump the box, well, you're going to jump the box and you're going to fall. Like, that's where you're at. If you're going to keep building yourself up, eventually you're going to be in a place where you're going to get it. I mean, the how you get good at anything is by doing it over and over and over and over again, right? When you want to get better at something,
and the right tools, yes,
absolutely.
I would say that.
But so if you're telling yourself the same things over and over and over and over again, whether it's positive or negative, it becomes your reality. You know, even down to eating habits. Like, the more that you are grabbing bites of your kids' food without recognizing it, the more you're going to do that. The more you're able to stop yourself and say, listen, I don't need this ice cream before I go to bed. And the more you practice that, the better you get at it.
I think the biggest secret with self-awareness, self-deprecation, humility, goal setting, all of it, right? Is who are you trying to do this for? Right? You want that job? Why? Who are you trying to please? Who's it for, really? And you're the only one that's really got to know the shit. And that's where the key is. The acknowledgement and the support systems and birds of a feather, and getting yourself around the right the right-minded kind of people, all of those niche sayings, those themes that have been respoken and transformed over the ages. At the end of the day, the key is you have to realize that everybody is fucked up. Everybody. Everybody. Motherfucker, everybody. Every goddamn there's a fight that everybody's got. Ain't no person on this earth so damn peaceful that they have no fight, right? Even I don't give a
Yes.
fuck if you're a Shaolin ass monk. Your inner peace is still in peril because you know the world is fucked up and that bothers you. So even the most peaceful are finding war because they know that they can't spread that peace because people aren't willing to have it. So there's
Right.
always a fight for that shit. Always. And so don't, you know, David Goggins had I forget what show he was on or wherever I got it from, where I saw him do it. I'm sure it was a reel somewhere, but you know, he's talking about, you know, everybody's fucked up. Life is a big ass head
that.
game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot gauge your progress or your failures or successes. You can't gauge certainly not your journey, the success of it. You cannot gauge that against people who are just better at hiding how fucked up they are more than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I saw that same reel and I was
you can't say that shit because that's a path that is very, very hard to get back from. And unfortunately, in my experience, the only way I've seen people come back from that is after a traumatic or some kind of life-changing event that changes you fundamentally. Your behaviors may still be the same, your personality, your attitude, all of that, but how you use that shit is now changed. Like I did not change my concept of my short fuse to lengthen the fuse and trading all. I didn't do that on a whim. I didn't do that because I was feeling some type of way one day and I just thought, I'm going to go out there and be great today. Wow. Like I didn't do that shit. You know what I mean? Like there was like life changes happen when your life changes, right? And I saw another quote, maybe it was on Threads. That fucking new app is weird. I haven't messed with it much, but it said you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. Right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. And if you don't start with yourself as that mirror, as that alpha in that group, then you've got some work to do. You can't go through your journey dragging other people's and their bullshit on with you, and then have the audacity to claim humility when shit don't go right because you didn't do your best.
Right.
You may have tried, given the circumstances. Shit, I can try to run a mile with a broken ass leg. Ain't nobody. Okay, how's that gonna work for you? You know what I mean? If the goal is a sub, 6 mile and I got a broken leg, it's never gonna happen.
Right.
Right? What am I gonna say? Well, it's because I got a broken leg. Well, fuck you. How about you just wait, you heal, and then when you're ready, hit it. Then hit that bitch. Now you got a story to tell. Man, I had a broken leg. I'm doing this after a healed broken leg. Like now all of a sudden there's glory in that.
Yeah.
And you've earned it. Right?
Yeah.
Not because you came back from a broken leg, but because you showed the patience. That's where the virtue is. It's the
and
patience.
then even just and then even despite whatever it was that kept you down, you overcame it. Like I think a lot of people let themselves get stuck. It's like we had a client like that, Zadie, love her. She broke her femur actually
when
several years ago, and it was a long time ago. I mean, probably 10, 12 years ago. And her healing process was not easy. She was in a car accident. She was coming out of a bad relationship. Like all these things just piled one on top of the other. And she was terrified to get back to exercise. Terrified. So much so that she didn't go back until she came to us like 10 years later. And she hasn't looked back since then. But it took her, and that overcoming part of it is a huge major part because it's so easy to get stuck in the like, well, I broke my leg and it just doesn't work the same anymore. So I'm just, this is my life now.
I'd be interested to see what she says, the reason that she stayed.
That she stayed with fitness?
Like why she after all that time, and then she decided to come back. Like what caused that? Because it was 10 years or what you said, right? So what caused it to come back? and then what
Mhm.
caused her to stay.
Yeah, well,
We
it
said
was
from the
funny.
start, it ain't about the fight getting there; it's the fight to stay there.
Right.
So I'd be curious to see what she
Absolutely.
said.
Yeah, we can ask her about that. I won't speak on her behalf, but we can ask her about that sometime.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's super important that people understand those concepts in their brain and how they're really looking at themselves and understanding that that's going to lead to whether they succeed or fail.
Yeah.
You know, and I liked what you said about too, how about the people around you. Like there was a reel this morning. This guy was so funny. He's like, I mean, it wasn't funny. I giggled to myself because I understood what he was saying.
Here we go. Let's see what this is. This one guy
No,
fell
it
on the
was
stairs.
no, no. He was saying like, you know, when your friends are like, "Oh, so you have to go to the gym again?" And it's like, it was basically kind of saying what you said about how it's just agree. Like they're saying, "Oh, so we can't go out and drink anymore." It's like, no, that's not where I'm at. I don't
Yep.
want to do that.
Yep.
And he's like, eventually you're going to start to see the people around you change.
Yep.
And some of those friends won't be your friends anymore. And it's a really, really hard thing to accept. And it's an even harder
Yep.
thing to go through. And it's not
It's a
fun.
harder thing to maintain because when you start losing people, it's hard.
And you
man.
look around and you're like, what? And you kind of think to yourself, like, what happened? And he was talking about it in the realm of, you know, fitness and kind of changing your lifestyle that way. But that's true for business. That's true for, you know, when you switch a career and you go a different direction, like that's true in all sorts of different scenarios. And that goes directly into your self-worth. I mean, the people around you feed into your self-worth more than you think they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you've got the wrong people around you that are causing you or perpetuating the way that you think about yourself in a negative way, I mean, and that's one reason a lot of people say that they end up staying here is because they get around people who see what they're capable of and who see what they are capable of themselves. And when you're surrounded in that kind of energy, it changes you.
That's how it should be. You know what I mean? Like we have a zero tolerance policy for the negative shit, man.
Mm-hmm. They know that this morning.
Well, shit, what happened?
This morning, no, Rosie was standing there and Allison was over there doing tricep dips or something. And Allison's like, I said, put your legs out straight. She was modifying with her knees up, you know, in like a tabletop, which is totally fine, but she doesn't need to. So I said, Allison, put your legs straight. She goes, I can't. And Rosie said, ooh, you just said the wrong thing to her. She's like, you should not have said that. And we sat there and we worked on it for a minute. And lo and behold, I'm like, oh, you just cranked out 12 of them with your legs straight. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's like you can't sit there and say those things about yourself.
Can't means won't.
Can't means won't. Absolutely.
Can't means won't. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what these people are, whoever it was that was needing to hear it. I don't know if we answered the question, but you have to know, I think to summarize all of that is, you know, I'm holding us accountable to the 30 minutes here. I see 28, right?
We're doing so good.
so get ready to press stop here in the next 90 seconds. If you have to know your why. And if you don't, you have to know your why not. You have to know truly, not honestly, truly, who are you doing this for? And do you value their approval? Do you need their approval and value their support in a way so much so that if it's not there, you'll quit? Because that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Right? Don't ever eat at a table with people you wouldn't starve with.
That's a good one. All right.
All right.